Hey guys, welcome to the video. Salt here. Today we're going to be going over the companion, the Sahasa Kubrow. Now companions were recently reworked, and a lot of them now have weapon slots that they didn't have previously. So like a lot of the Kubrows, their claws count as weapons now that can be modded out. And that's why we're going to be going over a lot of the companions for the next few videos that we do. So today's the Sahasa. Now, we have the top commenter and the first commenter, which is the same person of the last video. It's Pepper. It's Pepper, the short one. And we have recent supporters, which is going to be Johnny, Eddie, and Lil Vio. Thank you for your support, guys. All right, so we have Big Chungus here. Big Chungus is a Sahasa Kubrow today. And on this video, we're doing the Sahasa, but we're going to do two videos today. We're going to do the Sahasa and the Sahasa Kubrow. And the Sahasa and the Sahasa Kubrow are both of the loot-focused Kubrows. So I thought it would be kind of cool to kind of bundle them both today. They have different ways of getting loot, and so you might consider, you know, one might be a little bit better than the other. And the Chesa, not this one, but the Chesa that we'll do after this video is also one of the Kubrows that Tenacious Bond actually works on currently. So the Chesa is very powerful because of that. But let's do the Sahasa right now. So let's go into the build here. All right, and before we go over the mods, I want to bring up the Sahasa specific. Oops, I just hit my little microphone. Hopefully that didn't make any noise there. So I'm going to bring up the Sahasa specific mods here. It's going to be two of them. It's going to be Ferocity and Dig. Let's go over Dig first. So the Kubrow sniffs out buried objects and digs them up with a 270% success chance. So 270% success chance means that he's always going to pick two items up, and there's a 70% chance that he picks up a third item. That's pretty cool. Dig is also going to prioritize items that you need. So if your Warframe is in need of energy, he'll be picking up energy. If your Warframe is in need of health or ammo and even life support, he could be picking up those items. So Dig is really cool because of that, because it prioritizes what you need. Now, I do a lot of research and I scour like forums and things and like bug complaints and all kinds of stuff. And there are some issues that people bring up with Dig. And one of the issues that was brought up is that people are saying that Dig does not work when you are attacking. And I somewhat confirmed it, but I also somewhat debunked it. I'll explain that here. So going into a mission and just being surrounded by enemies and them attacking me and my pet was still digging. It was still digging on cooldown, basically. So it worked completely fine. However, the nuance to that complaint was that it was when you were attacking. So like when you're actively like pressing your left click to hit something or to shoot something, it's not working with Dig. And I could not completely confirm that. I couldn't tell 100% if he was not doing it. So I can't 100% confirm that. But the fact that he still does it in combat is okay, right? Because you're not always going to be holding your left click down. You know, you're not always going to have your left click held down. So he's still going to be digging in between. So still pretty decent. Still pretty a good little pet here. Okay, and that's the one we're using on our build. And you might ask, well, why aren't we using Ferocity? And it's because Ferocity right now, after the patch that happened like less than a month ago, it does not work. I had it on the build originally over Mystic Bond, because Mystic Bond is going to be our flex slot when we get to it. But on testing, it wasn't working, and I was like, why the hell is this not working here? And I was checking, again, forums and bug reports, and people are just saying that after the patch, this is just not working. And that made sense, because it wasn't working for me when I was testing it. So Ferocity is Kubrow attacks an enemy open to finishers with 300% crit chance. And if the enemy dies during the attack, enemies within 6 meters have a 30% chance to be knocked down and open to finishers. I thought this could be cool because on the claws that we'll go over after the main Kubrow build here, we use a mod that puts impact procs on. It knocks enemies down, it opens them to finishers, and I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool combo with Ferocity. And so I had Ferocity on the build over Mystic Bond. However, again, it's not working right now. So if you're from the future and this has been fixed, then Ferocity is a really good option over Mystic Bond, because Mystic Bond's a little bit of a weaker option, and we'll go over this when we get to the mods here. So for right now, though, don't use Ferocity until they fix that. Okay, I think we can finally go over the mods. So let's start with the 2 survivability mods here. There's actually 3 survivability mods total. Well, kind of 4, but there's 3 survivability mods total. There's the Vitality, the Fiber, and the Shield, right? There's Health, Armor, Shields. I suggest that you only choose 2 of those. And it's because you want mod space for other things, right? You want to be able to use like Synth Deconstruct or Dig or like Duplex Bond and things. You don't want your entire mod setup just to be survivability mods. Now you could, right? If you didn't really like Mystic Bond, you could just use that other slot for like the link redirection for shields. But I would only suggest 2. I would suggest 2 just for a kind of min-maxed Kubrow build. Now, the 2 you choose is going to be dependent on the Warframe you're using. So the link mods will link your Warframe's stats. I'm using an Inaros who has health and armor and no shields. So it makes sense for me to link my Vitality and to link my armor and not to use the link redirection, which is the shield one. But if you were using a Warframe that stacked shields, then it wouldn't make sense to use like armor, because armor doesn't work on shields. So you might want to use link redirection for a shield Warframe, like a Hildren, for instance. So it might look like link redirection for shields and link vitality for health. Or on a shield Warframe, you can also consider not linking vitality and using link redirection and hasten deflection to increase the shield gate potential of your pet. So this might be what it looked like for a shield Warframe. And then for a health and armor Warframe, it would be the link vitality and fiber. There we go. Now, you may also be asking, well, you know, I'm not playing a health and armor Warframe, and I'm not playing a shield and adaptation Warframe. I'm actually playing a shield gating Warframe. And a shield gating Warframe has booty stats. They have bad stats because you don't stack health, you don't stack armor, and you don't stack shields. You have, like, base stats. So you really don't want to be linking your crappy stats. And in that case, there are the basic health, armor, and shield mods, which is Enhanced Vitality, Metal Fiber, and Calculated Redirection. These will just enhance your pet's base stats. So for a shield gating Warframe, instead of Link Vitality and Link Fiber, it might look like Enhanced Vitality or Metal Fiber. You know, something like that. Okay. So that's enough for the 2 survivability mods here. Again, you can go with 3, but then you're using up more mod capacity, more mod space for that. So now we have Synth Deconstruct. Enemies injured by the companion have a 25% chance to drop a health orb when killed. This makes the companion drop a lot of health orbs, and this combos extremely well if your Warframe is using Equilibrium, because Equilibrium will change those health orbs into a little bit of energy as well. Or into a lot of bit of energy, really. So, Synth Deconstruct is a must on this build if your Warframe uses Equilibrium, or if you just need those health orbs for healing. Maybe your build doesn't have a way to heal, and so Synth Deconstruct is really good because of that as well. Now, if none of those 2 things are true, if you're not using Equilibrium, and you're not using, you don't need a way to heal, then you don't need Synth Deconstruct. Synth Deconstruct is really only for those two different things. So you can take Synth Deconstruct off, and then you can have a free mod slot. You can do whatever you want with that mod slot, or you could go with that 3 link setup if you really wanted to. Okay, next we have 3 mods that I think should always be on companions, and that is one of the retriever mods, Primed Animal Instincts, which is loot radar and enemy radar, and Fetch, which is basically vacuum. It's vacuum, but for companion, so it sucks up all your loot for you. Now, let me go back to the retriever mod because it's new here, and I'm going to type in retriever because there's a few of them. Okay, so you have 3 different retriever mods, and they do not stack. You're not able to put all 3 of them on there. You can't even put 2 of them on. You can only use 1. So you have Resourceful Retriever, which is an 18% chance to double resource pickups. You have Prosperous Retriever, which is an 18% chance to double credit pickups. Okay, so one is for resources, one is for credits. So you can kind of choose whatever one you want more of. Or if you're a newer player or a mid-game player and you kind of need both of those things when you're at that stage, you use Loyal Retriever. So instead of the 18% chance that you get with these two here, you get a 13% chance to double credit and resource pickup. So it's a little bit less of a chance, but it doubles both credit and resource pickups. So Loyal Retriever is really good if you just need both of those things. Okay, I'm going to be sticking with Resourceful myself, but that's just for personal reasons because I just need a lot of resources. Okay, now we have Contagious Bond. When your companion kills an enemy affected with a status effect, 50% of that status effect spreads to other enemies within 9 meters. So Kubrows really specialize in magnetic spreading, and Contagious Bond helps that process to magnetic spread. So that's why we're using it here. Very, very powerful bond mod. Duplex Bond we're using for pretty much the same reason. So your companion will clone itself each time you spend 100 energy, up to 3 clones. Clones live 30 seconds and can't use abilities. So these little clones aren't going to be digging like the main Sahasa can dig. But they can still attack. They can still spread magnetic. So just like Contagious Bomb, these little clones are basically running around, hitting things, spreading magnetic. And you get the added effect that if one of your clones kills something, their kills have a 50% chance of dropping energy orbs. So you get a little bit of energy once in a while too because of this. So Contagious Bond, Duplex Bond, pretty decent. And then we get to Mystic Bond, which is going to be the weakest mod in this setup here. So this is definitely your flex slot. Also, you know, Synth Deconstruct is a flex slot too if you're not using Equilibrium. But if you're using Equilibrium, this is definitely not a flex slot. It would be Mystic Bond as your flex slot. So let me bring up some other mods that could go over Mystic Bond. Because Mystic Bond is not the best. Well, I think it's the best out of all of the current options, but it is like, it's questionable, you know? So Mystic Bond, after your companion uses abilities with cooldowns 5 times, you may cast a Warframe ability without expending energy. That's pretty cool. You get to cast an ability for free. The only thing we have that has cooldowns is Dig. And Dig is not like super quick, like it doesn't come off cooldown super quick. So like you're talking about like maybe a free ability cast like once every 30 to 45 seconds, which is not great. I mean, it could save you some energy, but it's not going to save you a crap load of energy. And that's why Mystic Bond's a little bit of like a weak choice, and that's why it's a flex slot. Let's go over some other decent options though. So you have Vicious Bond. Companion melee attacks strip 15% of enemy armor. And enemies recently damaged by abilities spread the effect to other enemies in a 9-meter radius. This is pretty cool too. It's not a big armor strip. It's a little tiny like mini armor strip, but hey, it'll increase your damage, you know, by a bit. So again, it's not a huge benefit, but it's a benefit. So if you don't want Mystic Bond, like maybe your Warframe has no energy issues whatsoever, you could use Vicious Bond instead and just get that little mini armor strip on enemies, which is kind of cool. The other option, and this will be the best option if you can do its condition, which is Seismic Bond. Okay, if we look at Seismic Bond here, while a channeled ability is active, companion melee attacks create a 4-meter shockwave for 30% of their melee attack damage. And damage dealt by your companion increases your ability efficiency by 3% for 12 seconds, max 10 stacks. So 30% efficiency. And your companion's melee attacks have this like little shockwave effect too. So that's a really good mod, but you need to fulfill the condition of while a channeled ability is active, which is not going to be a lot of Warframes. A lot of Warframes don't have channeled abilities. The other thing to consider is that some channeled abilities don't actually act as channeled abilities all the time. Something like Gloom, for instance. Gloom is a channeled ability, but it does not count as a channeled ability unless it is actually working and affecting an enemy. So if you're just running around with enemies not in the Gloom radius, then it does not count as a channeled ability until there's an enemy in the Gloom radius. So Seismic Bond is really powerful, and you should use Seismic Bond here if you can fulfill the channeled ability is active. Okay, if you can't do that, then you're really stuck either using Vicious Bond or Mystic Bond, depending on which one you want. The other thing that we'll go over is Tenacious Bond, and this is a little bit of an unfortunate thing. Tenacious Bond should be the mod that goes here. This should be the one that goes here. This is going to be the strongest option. However, it does not work right now on the Sahasa Kubrow. And it's because of a mod in the claws, which we'll get to the claws after we do the main build here. But there's a mod called Hunter Synergy, which increases your crit chance, depending on your primary weapons. And Tenacious Bond, it activates if your pet has a crit chance of over 50%. Unfortunately, after the rework, Hunter Synergy stopped counting as increasing your crit chance over 50, even though it says that, and it actually increases your crit chance over 50. So the only thing Tenacious Bond takes into effect is the Bite mod. So if you're from the future and they have fixed Hunter Synergy, then this is what the build would look like. You should absolutely use Tenacious Bond, because Tenacious Bond is friggin' crazy. It's very, very powerful. But currently, right now, it does not work. So Tenacious Bond is not an option, and you're stuck either Mystic Bond, Vicious Bond, or if you could fulfill the other one we said, Seismic Bond. Okay, enough of that. We already went over Dig. We already went over Fetch. Let's go over the claws next here. So we have Sahasa Claws. Okay, we're going to start with the posture, which is going to be Assassin Posture. So again, Kubrow specialize in spreading Magnetic, and Magnetic gives increased damage to shields and Overguard. And overguarded enemies are going to be the Eximuses, right? So like Assassin Posture makes them prioritize Eximuses, and they do 300% more damage to Eximuses. And when they attack them, he's going to be producing those magnetic procs. So it kind of makes sense to use Assassin Posture. There's some other good postures, but on this specific Kubrow, you really just want to be using Assassin Posture. Okay, now we'll go to the mods here. We're going to have Bite for 330% critical chance and 220% critical damage. Just before I get too deep into the mods, remember how we were talking about Tenacious Bond? And that it only works with Bite right now. So you look and it's like, oh, critical chance 65%. Tenacious Bond should work. But if I take off Hunter Synergy, now it goes down to 43%. Because currently the game, after the rework, it only looks at what Bite can get you up to, and Bite is only getting us up to 43%, which is not enough to activate Tenacious Bond. So again, if you're from the future and Hunter Synergy is actually working again, then you can use Tenacious Bond. So, okay, enough of that. I just wanted to kind of reiterate that. So Bite, 330 crit chance, 220 crit damage. Maul is 330% melee damage. Precision Conditioning is another 385% melee damage, and it converts all base damage to slash damage. Burning Claws is 330% heat, 330% status chance, and converts all elemental damage from these claws to heat damage. Now, there's some like minor min-maxed reasons why I pick slash and heat. However, they're minor. They're very minor, like ways to eke out more damage or more support. These are expensive mods, right? Like they're 10-star mods. They cost a lot for people to upgrade. So not everyone is going to have a upgraded Precision Conditioning or an upgraded Burning Claws. So if for some reason, instead of the slash version, you decided, before watching this video, you decided to do the puncture one or the impact one instead, that's fine. You can use the puncture or impact one. You can't put multiple of these on, it doesn't let you, so you can only pick one of them, but it doesn't matter. Pick one of these three and put it on. I'm going to explain why I believe the slash is slightly better than the other two, but it is only slightly better. And the same thing with Burning Claws. I believe this is slightly better than the other claws, but if you did not start by picking up Burning Claws and upgrading it, and let's say you got Sepsis Claws instead or Chilling Claws, that's fine. Put this on instead, and it'll be almost as good. I'll explain why I think Heat is slightly better than the other ones, though. Okay, so why do I think Heat is slightly better than any of the other ones? It's because you're using Assassin Posture. Your dude is putting Magnetic on, so he's going to be focusing on Eximuses. Eximuses are usually the dudes that have, like, armor as well. Not always, right? Corpus Eximuses won't, but other than Corpus, they're going to be the dudes that have like armor and stuff. And Burning Claws, putting heat on. Heat is a partial armor strip, so it helps to further weaken that dude. So not only does he have the magnetic procs that are weakening him, but he has a partial armor strip as well that's weakening him. So I think that's why you get a little bit extra out of the heat, but it's minor, right? You could probably make a case for Shocking Claws being good too. I think it's either the heat or the electric, but I think heat will probably slightly eke out the electric one. Precision conditioning, I'll explain why I think Slash is slightly better than the other two, but again, it's just slight, is that you only have a 41% chance to produce a status at all. The Kubrows don't attack super fast. They attack like kind of slow. So that's only 1 out of 2 hits. Actually, that's even less than 1 out of 2. That's almost at like 1 out of 3-ish. Like 1 out of 2 to 1 out of 3 hits. So let's just say 1 out of 2, right? 1 out of 2 hits is going to produce a status at all. And most of the time it's going to be heat. It's not even going to be slash. Now, if you're going to produce one status, what one status will be most impactful? Will it be one puncture proc that just gives you 5% final critical? Will it be one impact proc that, hey, that converts to magnetic because we have magnetic strike, but we're already producing a lot of magnetic procs because of Bell Ringer? Or will it be one slash proc, and the slash will actually be a pretty hefty slash because it's a lot of damage here. I'll make the argument that I think the slash is going to be better. I think the slash is going to be the most impactful out of all of those. So that's why I choose slash and heat. All right, enough about that. Let's go to the next mod here, Hunter Synergy. So Hunter Synergy still works. It just does not work in that it affects Tenacious Bond. So like it doesn't work in the synergistic effect with Tenacious Bond, but everything else about it works, right? So like 30% of your primary weapon's critical chance is added to your companion. So I have a very hybrid weapon. I have the Grakata, which is built very hybrid-esque. So as you can see with the Grakata, I have a 65% critical chance. Obviously, that can go much higher if you have a crit-focused weapon, or it can go much lower if you have a full status weapon like the Sporothrix, for instance, which has a 1% crit, I think. So Hunter Synergy is a little bit dependent on the weapon you use, but just for an example, I put on a hybrid weapon, which is very in-between and everything, and it still gave me a good amount of crit chance. So it's still worth using. And then you also get the second effect on the bottom, which is plus 25% companion damage on enemies affected by slash. A lot of your weapons in the game are going to be producing slash, the ones that you're using as a Warframe. And so this will just give your companion a little bit extra damage. So both of those effects are really good. Hunter Synergy is still good enough to make it on the build. And in the future, again, if you're from the future and Tenacious Bond is working, then Hunter Synergy is absolutely good enough to make it on the build. All right, we have Mecha Overdrive next. 60% of primary weapons status chance is added to the companion. So this is kind of the same thing with Hunter Synergy, except with status chance. So again, I'm using the Grakata, which is kind of like a middle of the ground weapon. It has kind of okay crit and okay status chance. And with a hybrid weapon, it gets me to 41%. That's pretty good. It also gives you status duration, which is really nice because we're going to be putting those magnetic procs on things. And you get a little bit of a extra effect on the bottom here where a companion marks a target every 60 seconds for 3 seconds. Killing the target applies their status effects to all enemies within 7.5 meters. So this is going to be further spreading statuses like your magnetics. All right, and then we get to the 1-2 punch of Kubrows, which is going to be the Bell Ringer and the Magnetic Strike mod. So Bell Ringer is melee attacks, knock down enemies, and apply 4 impact status effects. And then Magnetic Strike is going to be a 100% chance to apply a magnetic proc when inflicting an impact. So those 4 impacts are going to be 4 magnetics. So that's why the Kubrows are pretty good at spreading those thingies. And that's how you build out the Sahasa Claws and the Sahasa Kubrow. Now, I did want to show off real quick before we end the video here. I want to show off Dig. I just want to go into a solo Steel Path Taviuni and just kind of like let dudes like surround me and attack me and show off Dig. That it still works even if dudes are, even if you're in combat, it works. It's just that I couldn't really confirm if while I was attacking if it worked or not. I think to fully confirm that I have to go in with an unmodded weapon with like unlimited ammo and just hold my left trigger down, but I didn't do that. Sending modified life support capsules. Use these to sustain. All right, so let's see this little guy. He should be. Let's see when he digs here. There he goes. He's digging. So there's enemies around. He's still digging here. All right, he just finished digging. He's gonna attack some enemies here, and we'll see him dig again. This is not the shortest cooldown, so it takes a little bit for him to dig again. There he, oh, yeah, he's digging. So he's digging again. He's getting some extra loot. So you can see it works even if you're in combat. The other, like I said though, the only thing I didn't test was if I was actively shooting. But to test that, I would have to go in with like a ZDPS weapon that like had an unlimited mag and just hold the left click down, which I didn't do. If any of you guys want to do that, you could always tell me how it looked like in the comments if he was still digging there. So yeah, it's a Sahasa Kubrow. Pretty cool. Little loot Kubrow. If you guys liked the video, consider giving it a like. If you haven't subbed yet, consider subbing or tell me what I can do to earn your sub. And I hope you guys have a great day. I'm going to be doing the Sahasa Kubrow next, which is the other loot Kubrow. So that'll be out in a couple hours after this one. So, all right, guys. Bye.